breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Good morning, people. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you, as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Danny Vietti. He does such great work over at CBS Sports. Taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. We're going to be chatting about some of the playoff races that are intriguing him. We're also going to be diving in terms of some of the teams that he's feeling bullish/bearish on. We're going to be talking a lot about the San Francisco Giants. We're going to be talking a lot about what we've been seeing in general in the teams that have been able to make some moves, who he thinks might make some moves at the trade deadline, and the just jumbled up mess that we've got in the American League playoff picture as well. So we're going to have a lot of fun there in the final segment. Going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, Larry CM, name does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions, everything is powered by Edge Boost. Edge Boost is making sure that bettors are able to access their funds 24/7, 365 for whatever they want to have access for. When you go to edgeboost.bet, utilize that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That'll get you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we did see in baseball on Wednesday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Miz, Jacob Mizorowski, gets the job done for the Milwaukee Brewers. 4-2 the final. Still very interesting. The Brewers averaging about 3.6 runs per game at home compared to 5.6 runs per game away from home. But they got to Paul Skeens. Death by a million cuts for Skeens. Gives up 4 runs in 4 innings, all of which came in the second inning. From there, the bullpen was fine. Mike Burrows, who's been utilized as a starter, he and Caleb Ferguson combined for 3 scoreless innings. Dennis Santana scoreless inning. And the Pirates offense continues to be the Pirates offense. Dead last in terms of runs per game, 1 of 9 with men in scoring position, while the Miz, he only went 5 innings, 74 pitches, but very dominant. 8 punch-outs, and then from there, Rob Zanofsky and Trevor McGill both on the scoreless inning. He did have Grant Anderson and Ebner Uribe both give up a run in their inning of work, but the Brewers, they polish that up. They get the job done. The LA Angels get the job done as well, 5-2 over the Boston Red Sox for Richard Fitz. He allows a pair of solo home runs in his 4 innings of work. Travis d'Arnaud, 4th home run season, and Joe Adell does set fire to the rain. 17th home run of the campaign. Luis Guerrero gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Brendan Bernardino gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning. Zach Kelly, though, 5 outs of the bullpen squirrels. Ori Alcala, a scoreless inning. Both RBI from Trevor Story, by the way. That's very unusual. As you say, Kikuchi, I say he was dominant. 12 punch-outs in 7 innings. Did allow 2 runs, but both of which were unearned runs, as Sean Kingery in the field, he had a pretty bad error, and then Ryan Zephyrion from there was able to supply 2 scoreless innings. Very low scoring out there in San Diego. Doesn't get much more low scoring than this. 1-0. The Padres find a way to persevere, get the job done. Mackenzie Gorb, solid start. 1 run allowed in 6 innings. From there, Brad Lord, Kyle Finnegan combined for 2 scoreless innings. But for San Diego, Nick Pivetta was on. 10 punch-outs in 7 scoreless innings. Jeremiah Estrada, Adrian Morejon, both able to lend a scoreless inning to get that one to the window. Also being able to get to the window, how about the Sacramento A's? I nearly called them the Oakland A's. 3-0 as Jacob Lopez able to go out there. He hurls 7 scoreless innings for them. He was able to get 6 punch-outs. He's been looking relatively good for the A's. And then you had Michael Kelly and Mason Miller both on a scoreless inning. And it was Mr. Kurtz who was able to go deep for his 11th home run of the season. Nick Kurtz, as he had a 3-hit game. That comes off of Captain Jack Flaherty. Lost 3 runs in 6 innings. From there, Carlos Hernandez, a scoreless inning. Matt Gage was able to get an out of the bullpen, and Dylan Smith, 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. So nice harmless under there, and that for a Sacramento A's team that has been one of your best teams in the over this far this season, with a lot of those overs coming at home. As right now, they're at 43 overs, 34 unders, and 6 pushes. And that top over team in all of baseball is the LA Dodgers. Now, did have to record this recap more around about 9:30 p.m. Eastern because I had the show cashing out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. So you're going to be seeing a lot of me on that show. I believe I'm down for 16 straight nights, but that's it. As I am recording this for the Wednesday podcast, they're currently tied 0-0, but we did see them take it to the Colorado Rockies on Tuesday by a count of 9-7. As Shohei Ohtani in that game was able to go deep for his 27th home run of the campaign. Justin Robelski has actually been solid in a bulk roll. 2 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings, but you did have Anthony Banda give up 3 runs in 2/3 2/3 of an inning there. You had Kirby Yates give up a run in 2/3 of an inning. Alex Vesia out of the bullpen scoreless. Jack Dreyer's the opener. He gave up a run in an inning, and Tanner Scott brought out the bullpen scoreless. And for Colorado, Germán Marquez, 6 unearned runs allowed in his 4 innings as Michael Taglia had a pair of errors out there in the field. And then Ryan Rollison, he gave up a home run, 2 runs a total of 1 1/3 innings. Bullpen has actually been solid for the team. Juan Mejia gave up a run in his inning work, but Anil Shavili, a scoreless inning. Jimmy Harrigan, he was able to get 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless as well. So we'll see how that is going to materialize. And then some of the other West Coast games that we did see on Tuesday prior to them getting the job done on Wednesday. You did see the San Diego Padres with another 1-run win on Wednesday, that by a count of 4-3. As for the San Diego Padres, bullpen in this game was pretty rock solid. You did have a few runs give it up early on, but they were able to hold down the fort from there. As for San Diego, you did have Ryan Berger give up 3 runs in 3 innings, but then from there, Adrian Morejon, Robert Suarez combined for 3 scoreless innings, and then Jason Adam, Jeremiah Estrada combined for 3 scoreless innings, and Martin Maldonado went deep off Trevor Williams. 4th home run of the campaign there for Williams. Gives up 4 runs over the course of his 5 innings before Cole Henry, Jose Ferrer, and Eduardo Salazar all end a scoreless inning. Also going back to Tuesday on this one as well, the Marlins were able to take it to the San Francisco Giants. That by a count of 4-2. As for the Miami Marlins, just a really good effort with men in scoring position. 3 of 10 with men in scoring position. Cal Quantrill does give up 2 runs in 4 2/3 innings, with home run number 2 of the campaign coming to Christian Koss. But a Marlins bullpen that has been not so great this season. They rose up. Anthony Bender along Cade Gibson both give you 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Ronnie Enriquez and Kelvin Fauché got the final 5 outs of the game scoreless. And for Justin Verlander, been a rough season for him. 3 runs allowed in 5 innings. Ryan Walker does give up a run in an inning before Sean Hegelet, Spencer Bivens, and Joey Lucchesi all went to scoreless inning. And then you did see a 1-0 winner for the Houston Astros. As you had Ranger Suarez go 7 2/3 innings, allows a solo home run to Cooper Hummel, his 2nd home run in the campaign, and that turned out to be the difference. As Framber Valdez, absolutely tremendous in this one with 7 scoreless innings. Brian Abreu, Josh Hader from there, they both lend a scoreless inning. So that polished up some of the results that I could not get to on Tuesday. And then in terms of the Wednesday games, we still have quite a few of these raging on. Right now, the Twins looking to bust out of funk where they've been 1-10 in their last 11 games. They're up 1-0 on the Seattle Mariners, but nothing has been safe with that team, so we shall see how that is going to be able to materialize. Just saw this one go final between the Rangers and the Orioles. For Jacob deGrom, he was able to take a no-hitter, I believe, into the 8th inning. It might have been in the 9th, but I mean, he comes up big. 7 innings. He gives up 1 hit along the way, as he was able to get some support from Josh Young along Jonah Heim. Both get their 8th home run in the campaign. For Mr. Heim, that comes off of Scott Blewett, who did blow it. He gave up 3 runs over the course of 2 innings, and then Brandon Young. He got the start, and it wasn't a great one. He gives up 4 runs in 4 innings. From there, Brian Breaker, Gregory Soto, Andrew Kittredge all lend a scoreless inning. In for Texas, yet another under for them, as they have been by far your best under team in all of baseball thus far this season, as they're up to 27 overs to 53 unders. That's north of 2/3 of their games going under the total. The Kansas City Royals have also been a really good under team. This is a game that's going on as I do this, but they're down 3-0 in the bottom of the 7th inning, looking like another under there, as they've been completely shut down by the Tampa Bay Rays. Drew Rasmussen, 5 scoreless innings. From there, you've had Kevin Kelly, Garrett Clevenger, mix and match for a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless as well. And for the Royals, you did have Michael Wacha give up some runs early. He gave up a 3 spot in the 2nd inning, but 9 punch-outs, 3 runs allowed in 6 innings. Steven Cruz from there has given you a scoreless inning, but looking rough for them. And then for the Astros, who won 1-0 on Tuesday, right now up 1-0 in the 5th inning on the Philadelphia Phillies. They did get to Mr. Zach Wheeler early on in this one, as Isaac Paredes scored in the 1st inning. And for Houston right now, you've got Colton Gordon giving you a relatively solid start. So we shall see what is going to be happening on that front. Looks like the Yankees should be able to polish off the Reds. This is going into the 8th inning with them up by kind of 6-1. Just the 3rd time in their last 14 games in which the Yankees were able to exceed the 4-run plateau, and Max Fried continues to be amazing. 1 unearned run allowed in 7 innings out of him. And then you had Jazz Chisholm go deep off of Brady Singer, 11th home run season. Singer gives up 4 runs in 5 innings, so he was singing the blues. Ian Gabot gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Taylor Rogers, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and we'll see if the Reds are able to hold that under. And DDA Fuentes, a rough start here for the Atlanta Braves. He and his Braves are currently down by a count of 7-1 going into the bottom of the 8th inning, as Fuentes gave up 6 runs in 3 1/3 innings, including a pair of bombs, as Juan Soto was able to go deep for his 18th home run season. Then you had home run number 3 for Ronnie Mauriciano, a nice upside guy for the Mets. And then Soto, he was able to go deep once again. I believe home run number 19 of the campaign that came off of Austin Cox. For Cox, he came in, lent an inning, gave up that home run to the credit of Aaron Bummer, 2 2/3 innings, scoreless out of the bullpen. And for the Mets, Clay Holmes gave up a home run in his 5 innings of work to Drake Baldwin, 9th home run of the campaign. From there, Brandon Waddell, Jose Buto, Ryan Stanek were all able to end a scoreless inning, so they are holding down the fort, and we shall see what happens with regards to extra innings in this one between the Blue Jays and the Guardians. That is 4-4 in the 10th inning, and you did also see the White Sox, by the way. I forgot about them getting the job done over the Arizona Diamondbacks, 7-3 the final. Biggest thing that you want to take away here is the fact that Eugenio Suarez and Corbin Carroll right now dealing with injury. They did not play in this game, and for Josh Naylor, he was able to nail his 10th home run of the season off of Sean Burke. For Burke, he does give up 2 unearned runs over the course of 5 innings, was hurt by a few errors out there in the field, but you did have Tyler Alexander come in for a scoreless inning. You did have 2 innings of 1 unearned run given up by Grant Taylor on his own error, so pretty sure probably been charged by that, but did have Steven Wilson come in for a scoreless inning as well. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, Zach Gallen continues to fill it up in terms of giving up runs. 5 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings, including a pair of bombs. You had Lennon Sosa get his 5th home run of the season, then he would get his 6th home run of the campaign off of Taylor Scott, and Andrew Benintendi also went deep off of Gallen. 9th home run of the campaign for Scott, gives up that home run in his inning of work. Kevin Ginkel, a scoreless inning, and Juan Murillo was able to give you a pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, and as I'm doing this, Marlins versus Giants on this Wednesday has yet to start up. But if you are looking trend-wise at what we're getting in baseball, oh, by the way, the Cubs are going to absolutely lay in base the St. Louis Cardinals, currently up 8-0. Going into the bottom of the 6th inning, Matthew Boyd has been solid with 5 scoreless innings, and for the Cubs trio of home runs, Kyle Tucker, 16th home run season off of Eric Fetty Wap. Fetty Wap gives one up to Reese McGuire, his 5th, and Ian Happ, his 12th, as Fetty 3 2/3 innings, 7 runs allowed, of which were earned. John King from there has given up 1 run in 2 1/3 innings, so he's been able to hold down the fort, and holding down the fort for you this season has been unders in Major League Baseball. As right now, the under rate is hovering right around about 52.5% to 53%. We've seen a few more overs over the last 7 days, with some games still pending for Wednesday. 47 unders to 44 overs, so 51.6% hit right there. Favorites have been solid over the last 7 days. 54 and 38 on the money line. 58.7%, close to the season long number. That is 687 and 495, 58.1%. And overall for the season, under sitting at 52.8%, 604 and 540. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now. That's what we all got on Wednesday/late Tuesday. And coming up next, we're going to talk with our good friend Danny Vietti. He does great work over at CBS Sports. Take a look at the great game of baseball, and he comes your way next right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VEASY Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VEASY Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as Danny Vietti does such a tremendous job over at CBS Sports, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. He also does his own podcast, the Wake Rake Podcast. He does that with Will Middlebrooks, former World Series champion, but more importantly, former Milwaukee Brewer as well. But he does a tremendous job on that front. He deciphers this game all throughout the year and does an amazing job of it. And you're able to follow him on Twitter/X at his first and last name, Danny Vietti. Last name is spelled Vietti. And Danny, always great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Yeah, always a pleasure, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me. And Danny, boy, oh boy, what do we make out of these playoff races, especially what we're seeing out in the American League? Because I guess there are some people I could consider the Orioles out of it, but if you do so, that means that you've got pretty much all but 3 teams in it. As we are recording this, so you've got all but 3 teams within 3.5 games of a playoff spot, and I think that is going to be a wild race all summer long.
Yeah, look out for the Rays, man. You know, we do this every single year, it seems like. You know, we look at the American League East, we look at the Yankees, we look at the Red Sox, or the big names. We look even in recent years, just because of the names on the roster and the investment in the roster, we look at the Blue Jays and we're curious about them. And then we had the Baltimore Orioles. They've showed so much promise over the last 2-3 years, and they have all these young studs with Gunnar and Adley. And it's like, all right, like, look at these 4 teams. Oh, wait. There's still the Tampa Bay Rays. There's still the Tampa Bay Rays that have been arguably the most consistent team in that division over the past decade or so, maybe even decade and a half. And they're right now at 43 and 35, 2 games back in that American League West. And Yandy Diaz is swinging a hot bat right now. They're young players that they've brought up through their system, just like they do every single year, it seems like, just continue to age very, very well. Ronda, Caminero, Brandon Lau's been part of that franchise for a while now. He's anything but a young prospect, but Brandon Lau is finally healthy again. He's got 15 home runs out of that second base position. So he's providing a lot of pop for a position that doesn't otherwise usually provide much pop. So look out, man. The Rays are doing it yet again. Here we are in June. And of course, nobody talks about them. But of course, here they are at close to the top of that division.
Oh, trust me, this podcast is talking about them quite a bit because they've been making me quite a bit of money this year. So have no fear. We're giving them a little bit of love. And do you think that they can knock off the New York Yankees? Because I continue to look at it. If you're looking to bet this right now as I record it, they're plus 550 to be able to win the American League East. And I mean, for the New York Yankees, as we record this, they had scored 4 runs or fewer in 10 out of their last 12 games. I do think that they're going to round into form a little bit more, but I think that the Rays are very live to be able to win that American League East.
It's funny. I was not going to die on this hill because when the Yankees are 15 games over 500, they're at the top of the division. They've really been a good team from start to now. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that the Yankees are not a good baseball team. Like all the numbers, they don't indicate that. But I will say coming into the season, especially when Garrett Cole went down to injury, I look at the Yankees on paper, like it's not very impressive to me, really. I actually think the Yankees to this point have exceeded my own personal expectations. Yes, the Max Fried signing was phenomenal, and Goldschmidt has swung the bat well. Their free agent acquisitions with Bellinger, it's worked out, and they're having a career year from Trent Grisham. But that's what it's taking for this team to have success is career years from guys that, otherwise don't have long histories of having success in the big leagues. Like Trent Grisham is a career 205 hitter. He's on track for nearly 30 home runs and he's hitting about 250. Ben Rice is still young, doesn't really have a long history of success yet. Go to Austin Wells, like he's only in his second year at the big leagues. Like there's a lot of inexperience in this roster mixed within guys that seemingly were past their prime in Bellinger and Goldschmidt. And yet here they are at the top of the American League East. But my point in saying that is that you look at the Rays, you look at the Yankees, at least on paper, at least coming into the season, I would argue that the Rays actually have more talent on paper than the Yankees do. Now, that hasn't, of course, proved true. I mean, the Yankees are at the top of the division for a reason, and their pitching staff is a big reason for it. I'd probably give the advantage bullpen and starting rotation, maybe to the Yankees, but lineup-wise, Ronda, Lau, Caminero, I mean, Josh Lau, Yandy D. I mean, that lineup in Tampa Bay, I would argue is a much more formidable lineup than the New York Yankees have.
Yep, and it's a much more consistent one as well because with the likes of Trent Grisham, Ben Rice, you just don't know what you're going to be able to get out of them night in, night out. Had really hot starts to the season, and here in June, it's gone a little bit cold for them as Danny Vietti, who does such great work over at CBS Sports, he's joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, and certainly that's of intrigue, and I know that you're a man that's out west, so I know that you've been taking a look at what we've been getting in terms of the National League West, and I want to get your thoughts there because I've been saying that the San Francisco Giants have been very live to be able to win that division. That was before the Rafael Devers news, by the way, so I will give myself a little bit of credit there. But how do you take a look at things? Because we do know that the Dodgers are going to be buyers at the deadline. I just keep going back to the fact that you lose Blake Tryon, Roki Sasaki, Blake Snell. You just go down the list of pitching injuries for the Dodgers, and even with their seemingly limitless payroll, you just have so many guys that go down with injury that it does have me a little bit concerned, whereas the Giants' bullpen pitching has me very encouraged about them.
It really comes down to health. I was just talking about this with a couple of colleagues of mine, and the only thing standing in the way of the Los Angeles Dodgers repeating as champions is the Los Angeles Dodgers. And it's the fact that they just haven't had health on their side. Now, they were able to push through the injuries last season through a postseason. They were able to get enough innings out of their starting staff in order to raise the trophy. It was not easy last year for the Dodgers by any means. I mean, they really relied on Kopech and Trinan and guys in their bullpen. I mean, they were hanging on by a thread after game 3 against San Diego. All of a sudden they had a bullpen game and they got a little bit hotter with their lineup, and the rest is history from there. But Yamamoto wasn't healthy during the postseason last year. Glasnow, of course, was out. Kershaw not there. Like the Dodgers, their rotation has been beat up and is still beat up. Even the guys that are healthy, Like your Dustin Mays, your Tony Gonsolins, and now, supposedly Shohei Ohtani. These are guys that are also coming off of Tommy John surgeries. These are not guys that are, at the peak of their careers right now. These are guys that are looking to find their way back into their strides. And from the Dodgers' perspective, they're just hoping that come August, come September, come October, that's when they're hitting their stride when it comes to health. But you mentioned the Giants, the Padres, at least on paper and as of right now, they are healthier teams. And if you were to, for example, if it were to be a 7-game series between the Giants, Padres, either of those two teams versus the Dodgers, you would understand the argument. Yes, the Dodgers may be better on paper, especially offensively, than possibly any team in the National League. But pitching wise, which we've seen time and time again, starting pitching is what gives you a chance come playoff time. And right now, Giants with Webb, Birdsong, Robbie Ray, that rotation is significantly better than the Dodgers have health-wise right now. And the bullpen has been good. Duvall, Rodriguez, Rogers, Walker. You bring in Devers into the fold. I think it would be quite interesting. And there's a reason we play 162. I know that. But it would be quite interesting that if hypothetically the season ended today, I'd be curious to see what the odds would be if the Dodgers were facing off either against the Padres or Giants in a playoff series.
Yep, it certainly would be. I can tell you right now that the bookmakers would make the Dodgers the favorite, but that said, I do think that, especially with the San Francisco Giants, the way that they mix and match, I think that this is a team that's very much built for 162. Like, we were just talking about the Rays. There have been a lot of cases to be made that maybe they're built for 162 games, but not necessarily a 5 or 7 game series. Do you think that that might be the case for the Giants, or do you think that this is a Giants team that can push through because they do have Robbie Ray and Logan Webb? And as we know, when you're in a 5 or 7 game series, having those two guys starting, that's massive.
No, I would argue that this team is actually built better for a postseason, really, just simply because of that rotation. The way I see it is, and it's so good to compare this team to the 10, 12, and 14 Giants, because it's actually very similar. When the Giants won the World Series, when they had their, not three-peat, but 3 in, I think it was 5 years, it was a team that had great starting pitching. Matt Cain, Tim Lincecum, Madison Bumgarner, Jonathan Sanchez, Ryan Vogelsong. And then they had a lineup that, frankly, left some to be desired. I mean, it was really Buster Posey and Pablo Sandoval and, guys like that putting the team on its back. But, I mean, I remember when they were playing the Kansas City Royals in the 2014 World Series, they legitimately did not have a starting left fielder. They were just platooning guys out there. I think they had Juan Perez for a hot stint. I think they brought back, they tried bringing in Angel Pagan for a stint, but he was kind of past his prime. But the point being is that this is a team that has really struggled hitting the baseball consistently, at least before they brought in Rafael Devers. I want to say they're 26th in baseball with batting average with runners in scoring position. So they have not scored runs consistently. They have, however, had one of the best records in Major League Baseball in one-run ball games. And a lot of that is due to their starting pitching giving them a chance game in and game out. Logan Webb, Birdsong, Robbie Ray. I mean, this rotation is legit. And like I said, if they were facing off against the Dodgers, who are not healthy right now, you got to think that San Francisco has a very legitimate chance at not just making a playoff run, but potentially a World Series run.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I am very much in on the San Francisco Giants team. I think that they can win the division this year. I really like what I'm seeing out of this team. So we are an absolute lockstep there as Danny Vietti, who does great work over at CBS Sports and the Wake Rake Podcast, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And we've talked about a few teams in general. I know that you're very bullish on the Rays. I expressed my love of the Giants, and you seem to be right there with me. Is there a team or two that right now might be sort of on the fringe of the playoff hunt? A team that might be a game or two out of the final wild card, they might be in that final wild card / in a playoff race that you feel like they could really ascend here in the summer months?
I'm waiting for Kansas City to kind of hit their stride, but that hasn't happened quite yet. And it's kind of been a big question mark of why. When is Bobby Witt going to get really hot? When is this rotation kind of going to get hot like they did a year ago? And they've dealt with injuries too, which stinks, especially to that rotation. So that's probably a lot of the reason why. Look at the National League side of things. Milwaukee's playing well. St. Louis is playing well. Arizona's kind of hanging around. 40-38, and we had a lot of expectations for the Diamondbacks coming in. We all kind of thought that National League West was going to be incredibly competitive with the Dodgers, Padres, Giants, and Diamondbacks. Well, the Diamondbacks have kind of gotten off to a rough start. Now Corbin Carroll, unfortunately, just got hit by a pitch, and hopefully that doesn't completely derail their season. But this is a team, if anybody's capable of beating the Dodgers in the postseason, it's the Diamondbacks, who have done it before. They did it 2 years ago and then wound up going on a World Series run, winning the National League pennant and inevitably falling short to the Rangers. But this is a team that's dangerous. They, a lot like the Giants, have a rotation that is capable of going on a deep postseason run. I think the biggest challenge for the Diamondbacks, kind of like we just discussed, is I don't know if Arizona is quite built for 162 as well as, say, the Dodgers or Giants. I think the Diamondbacks are more like a team that would love to sneak into the playoffs and then have that rotation get hot at the right time and have their lineup get hot at the right time, and then they're capable of going on a run. But they don't have the bullpen depth, and they frankly don't have the lineup depth to really dominate a full 162-game season. I think that's what the Dodgers have done so well in recent years. They have so much depth. They have their 40-man roster is flooded with talent. So if they have a guy go down with injury, they can fill that void very, very easily. Arizona doesn't quite have that same luxury. So when they do have a Corbin Carroll go down, when they do have somebody in their starting rotation go down, they're a little bit more hard pressed to fill that void and to kind of fill those statistics. So I'm waiting for Arizona to kind of hit their stride a little bit, but I think they're dangerous if they can get hot at the right time.
Yep, I think so as well. And with the Arizona Diamondbacks, they need to pick up some pitching at the trade deadline. That is for sure, because if they don't, that's going to be a little bit rough for them to try to be able to seek into the playoffs. But absolutely, I think that they're a team that has all the offense to be able to do so. You mentioned it, and Eugenio Suarez along Corbin Carroll. They're going to need to make sure that those guys are healthy as well. But I do think that the Arizona Diamondbacks provide a lot of intrigue in the National League. Then in general, it's going to be a lot of fun to see what happens there. We've got ourselves amazing baseball to be played over the next few months. And Danny, you're going to be covering it all. I know you're very much going to be locked and loaded when it comes to the trade deadline next month as well. So we'll have to give people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
All the baseball content, baby. It is the summer of baseball, and you can follow all that at CBS Sports on your favorite social media handles, at CBS Sports on YouTube and CBSSports.com.
Absolutely. And Danny, he's doing such an amazing job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. So big thanks to Danny for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming next, it is that time of the podcast. I'll give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Danny Vietti. He does such great work over at CBS Sports. Take a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and he did so once again today. So a big thanks to Danny for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81, and we are going to be going in the Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, the American League games after that, and then our lone interleague game is going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So let's get things started with 9:51, 9:52 on the card. The Chicago Cubs are on the road against the St. Louis Cardinals. Andre 3000 Palante is on the bum for the Cards, and Shota Imanaga goes for the Cubs. And the Cubs do find themselves anywhere between minus 130 to minus 137 favorites in that neighborhood, about plus 112 to plus 122 is that number on the Cardinals. 9 is the total. The over is minus 115. Under is minus 105. And with the Cubs, I typically hate taking guys coming off the injured list because they're a big giant roll of the dice, but I'm going to be willing to do so with Shota Imanaga. I did set the Cubs at a minus 142. Shota Imanaga going to be making his first start in just under 2 months. He last started in very, very early May. Made some minor league rehab starts with the AAA affiliate and 3 starts, went 10 and a third innings, so he didn't lend a lot of length, but he didn't give up any runs, and he looked completely dominant. Like, he was absolutely rocking and rolling, so that's a good thing for this team, and I do think that going up against the St. Louis Cardinals bunch that they are a bottom 8 team with regards to home runs on a per at-bat basis, that's going to be able to help them out a little bit there. And then it certainly does help that even if Shota Imanaga doesn't lend a lot of length, because in his 3 minor league rehab starts only 10 and a third innings. Now, this has been a Cubs bullpen that has been absolutely supreme. If you take a look ever since May 1st, the Chicago Cubs, #1 team in terms of bullpen ERA in the big leagues with a 2.60 ERA. Now, do I think that this is going to dry up a little bit? Sure, because you got a lot of guys that have come from out of nowhere. Brad Keller, Caleb Thielbar, Daniel Palencia, Drew Pomeranz, all posting up a sub-3 ERA, but you also have a lineup that is just very rock solid. They are second in the National League in terms of runs per game with Pete Crow Armstrong, C.A. Suzuki, both being able to supply 20-plus home runs. These are a lot of home runs that are not solo shots as well because you've got a lot of guys behind them that are moving the line. You've got someone like a Nico Horner who's able to hit about a 280. You've been able to get good production as well out of Kyle Tucker, who's been able to give you 15-plus home runs, but he also gives you north of a 380 on base as well. Dansby Swanson, not aiming for a ton of average, but he's up to 15-plus home runs. Michael Busch is getting on base. And for the Cardinals, you don't have anyone on the roster with north of 10 home runs. Wilson Contreras and Nolan Arenado are both there, but I mean, both of these guys hitting right around about a 250. Ivan Herrera hitting the injured list is rough. Now, Yohan Pozo has actually been hitting at 300, but not a lot of power out of him. Brendan Donovan, Alec Burleson hit above a 300. So you've got guys that are able to move the line for this team, but you don't necessarily have a ton of firepower. And for the Cardinals, this has been a pedestrian bullpen because Ryan Elsley has had his issues, blowing 5 saves thus far this season. You do have some guys that are able to set him up relatively well. Jojo Romero, Riley O'Brien, Phil Matone. These have been guys giving you a sub-3 ERA. Stephen Matz has been a relatively good long guy as well, but I also have no faith whatsoever in Mr. Andre 3000 Palante. Recognize that the ERA isn't the world's worst at a 4.48. He's giving up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings. He's actually reduced the walks. He's only giving up about 3 walks per 9 innings, but also allows the ball to be in play quite a bit. 6.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. Did semi-total at 8.7. Just a skoge more pitcher-friendly out there in St. Louis in most ballparks, and I do think that Imanaga gives you a good start. So looking at the under and the money line here of the Cubs up to a -142, 953, 954 on the card. It is the LA Dodgers. They are on the road against the Colorado Rockies as Austin Gomber looks to not get Gombered up for Colorado, and Clayton Kershaw is on the bump for the Dodgers. Dodgers are a massive favorite, anywhere between -280 to a -295, and between +230 to +240 is that number on Colorado. 11.5 is the total. Over is -120. The under is even. Seeing a straight 12 out there as well. That under is -120 and the over is even. Now, the -2.5 run lines are not on the board as I am doing this. If you're looking to lay a run half right now with the LA Dodgers, you are going to be laying -192. I'd be willing to go up to a -217. Like, this is just an absolutely brutal Colorado Rockies team. They have been a little bit better at home with their run production, give you about 4.2 runs per contest, but, I mean, with Hunter Goodman, he's got 14 home runs this season. He's actually hit 10 plus of them on the road this season. Now, Ryan McMahon, he's got 8 home runs at home this season. He does a much better job moving the line at home rather than on the road. And for the Rockies, their team batting average does raise up by north of 40 points when they are at home. A lot of these guys, like Michael Taglia and company, they're just much more equipped to be able to hit at Coors Field. Mickey Moniak has been able to supply a double-figure amount of homers as well. But I mean, even Thairo Estrada or Orlando Arcia haven't necessarily given you a ton this season. And for the Colorado Rockies, it's actually been an okay bullpen. You've got a few guys that are give you a sub-4.25 ERA. Juan Mejia, Jimmy Herget, Victor Vodnik, Jake Bird. These guys have been relatively solid. And for the LA Dodgers, this is about a league average team with regards to their bullpen ERA. But Clayton Kershaw is starting to round into form. So you may need a long guy like a Jack Dreher who's been able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA. I like what I've seen out of Alex Vesia recently. You're getting Michael Kopech, Kirby Yates off the injured list. So Kirby Yates, along Tanner Scott, expected a little bit more out of them this season than their north of 3.5 ERA. But that said, for Clayton Kershaw, doing a nice job being able to dial it in. 300 runs or fewer allowed in each out of his last 5 starts. He has given up a combined 700 runs in these last 5 starts, and his strikeout numbers way down. 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, allowing about a home run per 9. But it does feel like as the starts are going along, he's getting better and better, and he's backed up by a lineup that is numero uno in all of the big leagues with regards to runs per game, north of 5.6 runs per contest. Shohei Ohtani just continues to go nuclear. Guys giving you just below 400 on base, 27 home runs. Teoscar Hernandez has really been your RBI man. 14 home runs, worth of 50 RBI, hitting at 265. Andy Paz has been hot this season. 16 bombs, hitting for nearly a 300. Max Muncy is up to a 375 on base. Will Smith getting jiggy with a 425 on base. I do think that they get to Boston Gomber had a good first start to begin the season. That was, I believe, 5 scoreless innings against the Washington Nationals. Just gets completely smoked in his last start and for his career, giving up north of a 5 ERA when he is at Coors Field. He had some massive issues when he's at home. He, as a matter of fact, allowed 9 runs in his last start, so not feeling great about him in this spot. I did set my total 11.7. Between an 11.5 to a 12, I would rather look at the 11.5 over rather than the 12 under, just because I think that the Dodgers have a chance to be able to near this total all by themselves, and it's a circumstance where I'm going to be willing to lay the run line with the Dodgers, most likely going to take a -2.5 when that comes aboard, and I like the over. 955, 956 on the card. The Miami Marlins are on the road facing off against the San Francisco Giants, as Hayden Birdsong is on the bump for the Giants, and you've got Jansen Junk looking to not live up to his name for the Miami Marlins, and the Marlins are underdogs of any between plus 143 to a plus 150, minus 165 to minus 170 is that number on San Francisco. 8 is the total, the under is minus 120, and the over is even, and if you're right now looking to lay a run half with the Giants, you're finding that at a plus 125, and I'm willing to nibble. I was pretty much willing to take even money or better with regards to this run line. Hayden Birdsong has been quite impressive to me. I absolutely love what this guy has been able to bring to the table. He was a really good long guy in the bullpen. He has come into the starting rotation, and he's been able to do a very rock solid job. In his 6 starts, he has allowed 3 earned runs or fewer in all but one of them. Did get a little bit lit up in his last start against the Boston Red Sox, but for the season, 3.25 ERA, 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up only 1 home run per 9, and he gets to go up against a Miami Marlins team that is in the bottom 7 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. You just don't have a lot of pop on these guys. Augustin Ramirez and Kyle Stowers have been able to give you 11 home runs this far this season. Really nobody else outside that has been able to give you north of 7 home runs. Now, I will say for Miami, you do have guys who are able to find a way on base, like Xavier Edwards at the leadoff spot has been very reliable, north of 365 on base. Even someone like an Eric Wagaman is hitting a 255. Jesus Sanchez is hitting a 250, and Dane Myers has been hitting well above 300 as well, but you also just don't have a lot of bullpen pitching with this Miami Marlins team as well. Currently bottom 8 team in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Kay Gibson, Anthony Bender have both been able to supply you with a sub 250 ERA. Ronnie Enriquez has been an okay long guy as well, but then you get in the likes of Blake Picard, Tyler Phillips, Anthony Veziano. Bunch of guys are giving you north of a 370 ERA, and for the San Francisco Giants team, just supreme with their bullpen. Number 1 in terms of bullpen ERA. So many guys. They're right now supplying a sub 225 ERA. Camilo Duvall, Randy Rodriguez, Eric Miller, Tyler Rogers, all going out there, all doing their job. And for the Giants, it is a bunch that they score a little bit less at home rather than on the road just because of the ballpark factors, but you've got Eloy Ramos, who's been able to give you 13 bombs, nearly a 365 on base. Mikey Stremski has been able to give you a 350 on base. Even with Matt Chapman curling out of the fold, you've seen Casey Schmidt be able to step up with a 365 on base. 4 home runs and less than 100 at-bats out of him. So you've got a lot of guys that are producing for this lineup. I do think that Birdsong is going to be able to go out there and give you a good start, and so does Jansen Junk. I like this 8 under because Jansen Junk has actually looked pretty solid. He started out as a little bit of a long guy for the Miami Marlins. They're starting to give him a few starts in his last 2 total appearances where he's went 10 2/3 innings. He's allowed 1 run overall for the season, 8 strikeouts to 0.7 walks per 9 innings. Small sample size of 27 2/3 innings. Has always been solid with regards to his command. For his career, 1.3 home runs allowed per 9 innings is a little bit concerning, but does appear to be a guy that's rounding into form, and the home runs are a little bit less of an issue out there in San Francisco. So you're at the 8. I like the under to go along with that Giants run line. 957, 958 on the card. The Atlanta Braves are on the road against the New York Mets, as Finn Canning is on the bump for the Mets, and you've got Grant Holmes on the bump for Atlanta. Atlanta is in a pick'em game between minus 105 to minus 110 on both sides. 9 is the total. The under is minus 125. The over is plus 105. Seeing straight 8.5. That over is minus 115. Under is minus 105. And I did bet semi-total at an 8.2. I do like the under. Now for the Atlanta Braves, have they been better with their offense ever since Ronald Acuna Jr. went in the fold? Oh, absolutely. Ronald Acuna, 9 home runs in his first month back. He's giving you north of a 450 on base. This is still a team that entered into Wednesday 20th in the league with about 4.2 runs per contest. So that's a little bit concerning. Do have Austin Riley hitting at 270 with a double-figure amount of bombs. You've had Matt Olson give you 15 home runs as well, but you just need to be getting more out of Michael Harris. Ozzie Albies hitting below 235 with not necessarily a lot of power. And I will say this for the Atlanta Braves, the bullpen has actually been quite solid for them recently. If you look since May 1st, they're a top 7 team with regards to bullpen ERA. That even includes that 6-run lead that they blew against the Arizona Diamondbacks a few weeks weeks ago, and Rossio Iglesias, well, he has been terrible, and Daniel De Los Santos starting to go down the toilet both darn near a 4 ERA, but that said, you've been able to get good production on the likes of Pierce Johnson, Aaron Bummer, both of these guys have sub 3.35 ERA. Dylan Lee has been able to give you a sub 2 ERA. Desmond Hernandez being on the injury list has hurt the team, but the Dodd father, Dylan Dodd, has been solid, so you do like to see that, but the Mets overall are a top 8 team with regards to bullpen ERA. You've got a lot of guys who are able to go multiple innings, and Oscar Brazoba and Jose Buto will be able to give you a sub 3 ERA. You've actually gotten some really good production of Jose Castillo, who's been giving you a sub 2.50 ERA, Reed Garrett, Edwin Diaz. These guys have been rock solid, and this is a Mets team that does rank in the top 8 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Trio of guys that will be able to give you at least 16 home runs. Quartet of guys, at least 15 bombs. Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, Juan Soto. Soto up to a 390 on base. Alonso a 380 on base. Lindor is hitting at 270. He's playing through injury. Jeff McNeil, 8 home runs in his first 150 at-bats with a 340 on base. Now, guys like Tyrone Taylor and company at the bottom full, Brett Beatty, you need to get a little bit more out of them, but all in all, it's been pretty rock solid. And for Griffin Canning, he is posting up an ERA that's just a skoge below 4. He does need to work on the walks. He's been giving up about 4 walks per 9 innings, so we've been noticing a little bit of regression there, but north of 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. The strikeout stuff has been coming back to him. And for Grant Holmes, he has a respectable ERA of a 371, but closer to about a 442 fielding dependent. 1.5 home runs, 4.1 walks allowed per 9 innings. Good news is for both of these guys are in a little bit more of a pitcher-friendly environment. I will say this for Holmes, 9 plus strikeouts in 3 out of his last 5 starts, so I do think that you get a solid start out of both of these guys, but really like the Mets bullpen to be able to take this one home. Semi-tail at 8.2. I like the under. Set the Mets out of minus 138. I like them on the money line. 959, 960 on the betting board. The Seattle Mariners are on the road. They're facing off against the Minnesota Twins as Simeon Woods Richardson gets a start for Minnesota, and Emerson Hancock is on the bump for Seattle. And Seattle is an underdog of anywhere between even money to plus 107, minus 115 to minus 125. That number on Minnesota with 9 being the total. The under is minus 120 and the over is even. I set the Twins at a minus 102. Being able to get plus money on the Mariners, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the money line. This has just been a wreck for Simeon Woods Richardson. This has been a wreck for the Minnesota Twins. Twins entered in the day on Wednesday having lost 10 out of their last 11 games. And for Simeon Woods Richardson, he got sent down to the minor league level. He gets recalled, and since getting recalled, he hasn't done a whole heck of a lot. As I aim for Woods Richardson in his last 3 starts, he has given up a grand total of 9 earned runs over the course of now, I believe, 15 2/3 innings, if my math serves me correctly. 460 fielding dependent, giving up 1.4 home runs, 3.5 walks per 9 innings. Just not impressive, to say the least. Now, I will say for Emerson Hancock, it's been an interesting season for him because for Emerson Hancock, if you take out the blow-up starts, he's actually been halfway decent. The 5.43 ERA is absolutely horrible. 5.49 fielding dependent, giving up darn near 2 home runs per 9 innings, but he's made 13 starts. He's given up 3 earned runs or fewer in 10 of them. He's had like 3 starts where he's gotten completely lit ablaze. Last start against the Cubs, he gives up 9 runs. Now it's out there in Wrigley Field. Wind was blowing out. It was a 500 billion degrees. That absolutely killed him, but I do think that there's some upside there, and I do believe that with the Mariners, you've got the far better bullpen with having Matt Brash, Andres Munoz, Gabe Spire, all give you a sub-3 ERA. Overall for the season, it's been a Seattle Mariners team that, in terms of bullpen ERA, they're hovering right around about 11th, and the Minnesota Twins are going down the toilet bowl, 22nd overall, but if you look since May 1st, they have been a bottom 7 team in the big leagues. The top guys have been solid. Yohan Duran, Danny Kalum, Louis Varland give you a sub-325 ERA, but Griffin Jackson has been getting jacks up. Cole Sands has been going down the toilet bowl as well, so you've got a lot of guys that are just not performing at their best, and for the Minnesota Twins, you've actually been able to get some solid offense out of this team with now in Byron Buxton hitting for north of a 270. He's been able to supply 17 home runs this season. Trevor Larnach, he's up to 11 home runs. He's been able to give you about a 330 on base as well, but it is a Minnesota Twins team that it feels like they could be a little bit random towards the bottom of the fold with Cody Clemens along Matt Wallner not giving you a ton right now. Harrison Bader's been able to give you about a 335 on base. Brooks Lee is hitting about a 280. Doesn't give you a ton of on base, but finds a way to be a move line. You've been able to have Willie Castro give you a 360 on base, but again, that bullpen and Simeon Woods Richardson, that's a big issue. And what else is an issue? Having to go up against big dumper Cal Raleigh. Entering in the day on Wednesday on pace for 66 home runs this season, 386 on base. J.P. Crawford is giving you 400 on base. Julio Rodriguez along with Ore Polanco, 11 home runs, both hitting at 252 entering in the day on Wednesday. Rowdy Tellez hitting for no average whatsoever, but he's up to 11 home runs. runs this far this season, so been able to get a bit of something there. Donovan Solano starting to move the line a little bit for this team as well. I do think that for Emerson Hancock, even though he's been inconsistent, gives you a little bit more here than Simeon Woods Richardson for the Mariners to be able to get the job done. Plus 103 or higher. Looking at that Mariners money line and did somebody till 9.1 here at the 9. I like the over. 961, 962 on the board. The Toronto Blue Jays are on the road against the Cleveland Guardians as it is Mr. Tanner Bybee on the bump for Cleveland and Kevin Gausman goes for Toronto. The total on this game is 8.5, but the under is minus 130 and the over is plus 110. Starting to see some 8s with the 8. The under is minus 115 and the over is minus 105. Cleveland a very slim favorite, minus 107 to minus 112, and between even money to minus 110. That number on Toronto, and I'm going to be willing to take a shot here on Cleveland. I did set them at a minus 113. Tanner Bybee has just been so much better when he has been at home rather than when he has been away from home. As for Tanner Bybee, he's been able to do a rock-solid job with a 3.86 ERA, giving up just 1.5 home runs per 9 innings this season. I say just, but I mean the just is actually at home. 0.75 home runs per 9 innings with a 2.50 ERA when he's in Cleveland. On the road, it shoots up big time, and he gets a face-off against a Blue Jays lineup whose 3.6 runs per game away from home this season has been absolutely deplorable. So, yeah, it's not necessarily been savory there, and I do think that for Kevin Gausman, he's going to round into form a little bit more as well. As for Mr. Gausman, 4.60 ERAs, allowed 3+ runs in 7 out of his last 10 starts, but 385 fielding dependent, 8.8 strikeouts at 2.5 walks per 9 innings. He has been giving up about 1.3 homers per 9, but again, this is the Cleveland Guardians team that they themselves are in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game, and that's mainly because with the Cleveland Guardians, it's a very top-heavy lineup. You've got Jose Ramirez hitting above a 300. He's been able to supply you with 13 home runs. Stephen Kwan is hitting above a 300. Even Carlos Santana, 333 on base, but then you got the just cavalcade of different guys hitting at 220 or lower for this squad, as you've got that of Kyle Manzardo, Will Wilson, Bo Naylor, Nolan Jones, Lane Thomas when he's been at the big league level. It's gotten so bad that Jokenzie Noel, Brian Rocchio got sent down to the minors. Like, all these guys are at 220 or lower. Manzardo does have 12 home runs, but I mean, you need better than a 298 on base. And for the Cleveland Guardians, this has been a lineup that has been really underperforming, and that's been big because the bullpen has been quite themselves. But if you look since May 1st, the Cleveland Guardians are in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. You've been able to find some good production out of the likes of Hunter Gaddis, Nick Enright, Cade Smith. These guys have been able to give you a sub 320 ERA. With Smith, he's up to about 14 strikeouts per 9 innings. Joey Cantillo has been out of the fold for a bit, but I mean, Class A back down to a sub 350 ERA. He's blown a few games that you wouldn't want to see, but he's been looking a little bit better recently, and you've got a Blue Jays team that has been right around league average, just slightly above average with regards to their bullpen ERA. They've been able to mix and match here throughout the season, even with Jeff Hoffman being a big giant disaster for the team. But we've got the likes of Brandon Little, Uriel Rodriguez, Braden Fisher. I'll give you a sub 280 ERA. Mason Fluharty is right now up to a 5 ERA. That's been not great to say the least, and Chad Green has had his issues. But again, with the Toronto Blue Jays, bottom 6 team in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. George Springer, Vlad Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, all between 10 and 11 home runs. And I mean, for Springer, 350 on base, more like a 380 on base for Vlad, and then Bo Bichette has been able to about a 275. And you got plenty of guys moving line. Don't call his name, Alejandro Kirk has been able to hit 300. You've been able to get good production out of Addison Barger hitting at 265. Miles Straw, when he's been out there, has been solid. They've been dealing with a little bit of a concussion to Nathaniel Lukes, but he's coming back. He's been able to find a way on base, but I do think that Bybee at home is able to get the job done in what I think is going to be a low-scoring game. Semi-total 7.6. I like the under, and with the Guardians willing to lay up to a minus 113 on that money line. 963, 964 on the betting board. The Athletics are on the road against the Detroit Tigers. It is Jeffrey Springs who's going to be on the bump for the Athletics. Right now, it's old to be determined on the bump for the Tigers, so this is a game that's currently off the board. Now, I was looking on the CBS Sports projection, and they were looking at Diedrich Enns to be able to get the start. He is a little bit of a well-traveled guy that was pitching out there in like the Nippon Baseball League. He's been at the minor league level this season, and if you do get Mr. Enns going up against Springs, I'd be setting the Tigers at a minus 158. We'll be willing to lay up to a minus 157 there, plus 159 or higher. We'll be looking at the Athletics, and then set a total to where an 8.5 or less, I'd be looking at the over, a 9 or higher to the under. And if you do get Enns, you might be seeing an opener like a Brant Herter or someone like that. And this is a Tigers team that overall for the season, their bullpen has been relatively league average in terms of ERA, but they're much better than this because they do have a lot of guys that are versatile, are able to give you multiple innings, and the top of the fold has been very good. I mentioned Herder a little bit before. He, Will Vest, Chase Lee, Tommy Hanley, all giving you at least a 2.75 ERA. So I mean, these guys really do impress me. It's been some of the longer guys that have been acting up on you a little bit. And for the Detroit Tigers, this is a lineup that all of a sudden is in the top 7 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Trio of guys: Kerry Carpenter, Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, all with at least 14 home runs this season. Green is up to hitting darn near 300, and there's a lot of guys that are hitting for some great average. Zach McKinstry is hitting for north of 350 on base. Javi Baez, 9 home runs, 290 average. Wencio Perez says coming off the injury list, 6 bombs and 75 at-bats with a 300 average. So, I mean, these guys are really starting to take off. And for the Athletics, it's been a relatively league average team in terms of scoring. Not necessarily great, not necessarily terrible. I mean, it's been up, down all around for them. But you do have a pair of guys in Tyler Soderstrom along Brett Rooker who'll be able to give you 15-plus home runs thus far this season. You've been able to get some relatively good production out of Lawrence Butler with 11 home runs. I will say Soderstrom actually had 14 home runs. He has slowed down with yards of power, but still give you about a 340 on base. And Jacob Olsen, how about north of a 350 average? He's got a little bit of pop in his bat as well. They've been hurt by the injuries to Miguel Andujar, Shea Langolaris, but Luis Urias has been able to bet at 250. He's able to give you a bit of power as well. Here's where the A's go wrong, though. The bullpen has been absolutely terrible. Dead last in the big leagues in terms of ERA. You've got one guy who has made at least 8 appearances this year from this bullpen that is currently posting up an ERA below 4.25, and that would be Hogan Harris. He has been your Hogan hero at a 3.62 ERA, and now they're looking at JT Ginn Juice to perhaps give you some long relief. Grant Holman, Mason Miller, Osvaldo Bido, just a whole bunch of guys from the 5 ERA. Tyler Ferguson has been terrible. I will say this for Jeffrey Springs, overall for the season, a 4.24 ERA, but he's been a whole lot better when he's been on the road. Thus far this season on the road, he's giving up less than a home run per 9 innings. At home, he is giving up, north of 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. On the road, gives up about 3 walks per 9. That ERA does go way down when he is on the road. On the road, more like a 3.83 compared to north of a 5 ERA. At home, you're noticing it with a lot of these Sacramento A's pitchers. They have been much better when they have been away from home rather than when they've been at home. Springs is one of those guys, so a little bit of respect paid there. 8.5 or less, looking at the over 9 or higher to the under end with the Tigers. Minus 157 or better, looking at that money line, plus 159 or higher. The A's, 965, 966 on the card. The Tampa Bay Rays hit the road facing off against the Kansas City Royals as Michael Lorenzen goes for the Royals, and the Boz, the Wizard of Boz, Shane Boz, is on the bump for Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, anywhere between minus 117 to minus 125 favorites, and we're in the neighborhood about plus 105 to a plus 110. Then around Kansas City, 9.5 to 10 is the total on the 10. Over and under both at minus 110 on the 9.5. The over is minus 130 and the under is plus 110. And I'm going to be taking a shot on the under. You got a Kansas City Royals team that's right now averaging 2.9 runs per game at home this season. Dead stinking last in the big leagues. Just absolutely awful here. You've been able to get a little bit more out of Bobby Witt Jr. and Vinny Pasquantino. Both of these guys hitting north of 265. Witt Jr. north of 20 stolen bases and 10 to 11 home runs apiece out of them. Miguel Garcia is hitting at 300. And even some of these guys at the bottom of the fold, like a Drew Waters, is hitting north of 250 for the Royals as well. But man, it's just not been great with this offense. They brought in the likes of Hunter Renfroe, Kevon Biggio to be able to give you a little bit of veteran experience. Right now, neither of those guys are with the team because they were just absolutely awful this season. So, I mean, you've got a lot of issues on that front. And on the flip side, you do have yourself a Rays team that all of a sudden has been in the top 10 in the big leagues in terms of their run creation and their runs per game. And with having Jonathan Aranda give you north of 400 base, that's big. Junior Caminero, Brandon Lau, both of these guys are hitting north of a 250, and you've been able to get really good production as well out of a guy that I like in Jake Magnum. He's been able to give you a double-figure amount of stolen bases, hitting above a 300. Now, I will say, some of these guys at the bottom of the fold, like Taylor Walls, the entirety of the catcher spot, you do need to be getting a little bit more out of those guys because when it comes to having these guys hitting for less than a 230, that's a little bit of an issue. But, I mean, even Jose Calabreo, who's been hitting below a 235 for the team, he does have closer to 325 on base, 29 stolen bases. That's towards the top of the big leagues, and you know what you're going to be able to get out of this Tampa Bay Rays bullpen is you got so many guys like Emmanuel Rodriguez, Eric Orze, Garrett Clevenger, Pete Fairbanks, all give you a sub 285 ERA. They're a top 5 team in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, and the Royals have been top 10 as well. Steven Cruz, Daniel Lynch have been nice mix and match pieces pitchers with a sub-3.25 ERA. You've had Lucas Erceg, Carlos Aceves be locked down in the 8th and 9th innings, and Michael Lorenzen has been pitching much better at home rather than on the road. Michael Lorenzen overall for the season has had his issues. He's right now giving you a 4.81 ERA with 1.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but that goes down to a 3.30 ERA with 0.9 home runs per 9 innings at home. And in the Baz, he's at a 4.80 ERA. He's giving up north of 3 walks per 9 innings, a little bit over a home run per 9 overall, but on the road, 3.57 ERA. He's still been giving up a little bit north of 1.3 home runs per 9 innings away from home, but he has been better, right? He's backed up by this tremendous bullpen. I do think that for the Royals, it's just going to continue to be an issue to where they just don't find any offense whatsoever. They have been a bottom 3 team in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. The Rays have been able to supply darn near 5 runs per game away from them. I recognize it's a little bit warmer and you've got some windy conditions out there in Kansas City, but this total for me is just too high. Set mine at a 9.1. I like the under. And for the Rays, I did set them at a minus 129. Willing to take them on the money line, and we wrap things up with 967, 968 on the card. The Philadelphia Phillies hit the they're facing off against the Houston Astros. Hunter Brown is on the bump for the Astros, and Cadis for Sanchez is on the bump for the Phillies. Phillies between plus 118 to plus 128. Underdogs minus 134 to minus 144 is that number on Houston, with 7 being the total. The over is minus 120, and the under is even. And for Houston, I did set them as a minus 127 favorite in this spot. We're going to see where this shakes out when it's all said and done, but if you're looking to lay a run F right now with Houston, you are going to be able to get some relatively good plus numbers here, as right now I'm seeing that at a plus 158. If we can get up to about a plus 160, I would be willing to be able to fire in there. As for this Houston team, I do think that they have the propensity to be able to get into this bullpen of the Philadelphia Phillies. It has been in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. You've had Orion Kirkering be able to give you a sub 3 ERA, but all of a sudden you've had Tanner Banks along with Joe Ross, Matt Strom, posting up north of 3.70 ERA, and even for as good as Christopher Sanchez, that's hard to be able to overcome. For Sanchez, rock solid this year, 2.87 ERA, 3.15 fielding independent, 9.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up only 0.7 home runs per 9. Now, if you look at his splits over the last few seasons, has been quite a bit better when he has been at home rather than away from home. On the road this year at 2.54 ERA, he has been very supreme when he's been away from Philadelphia, but you also have a guy in Hunter Brown that is just absolutely mowing them down right now. Now, we should see a little bit of regression to this 1.88 ERA, closer to 2.85 fielding independent, 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up 0.8 home runs per 9, but this guy just continues to go out there and continues to roll. He has given up a grand total of 5 runs over the course of his last 5 starts. He has been absolutely dominant in every way possible, and he's backed up by a Houston Astros team that does rank in the top 8 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Josh Hader, the closer, is looking like the Josh Hader that we all know and love, and then you've got the Bryans, Brian King, Brian Abreu, Steven Oker, Bennett Sosa. All these guys give you a sub 3.25 ERA. We'll say this for the Houston Astros. The offense has been relatively pedestrian this year, entered in the day on Wednesday, tied for 18th in the big leagues in terms of runs per game, but Isaac Paredes really starting to find it for this team. He's been able to supply 16 home runs. He's giving you a 360 on base. Christian Walker along the Indian Diaz, they just need to find a way to be able to get on base a little bit more. Recognize that both of these guys with 9 plus home runs, but less than a 285 on base is rough, but Jose Altuve up to 12 home runs, hitting north of 265. Jeremy Pena is hitting at 325. Mauricio Dubon doesn't walk a lot, but it's giving you a little bit more power. He's been able to hit north of a 250. Cam Smith has been able to come along for the ride as well. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, that Bryce Harper injury is very rough because it feels like it's Kyle Schwarber. A lot of guys are able to get on base. You take a look at Alec Boehm, Nick Castellanos, Trey Turner. These have all been guys who have been able to hit north of a 280 for the squad, but nobody outside of Kyle Schwarber with north of 10 home runs this far this season. JT Realmuto has been a little bit better recently, hitting north of a 270 over the last 30 days, but Bryson Stott has been hitting about a 240. Brandon Marsh has been a roll that I saw season long. Yohan Rojas is right now giving you nothing at the bottom fold, though Umando Sosa, when he's gotten at bats, has been pretty solid as well. But that said, I do think that Houston is able to get to Sanchez a little bit. They dive into the bullpen and get the job done. If I can get like a plus 160 on the run line, we'll be looking there on the Astros, or if we can get down to a minus 127 money line, whichever I'm able to find first. And with this total, set mine at a 7.1. So right now, looking at that 7 over, and that'll wrap things up for the Thursday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks to Danny Vietti of CBS Sports and the Wake Rake Podcast for joining me in the last segment. If you do like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And I'm coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.